Hi everyone. This is the CB webinar for the Americas region. This is the third webinar that we've done now. And the idea of the webinar is just to support CBs as they transition through the transition period with the IAF mandatory document 28, which is in regards to uploading certification data to the IAF database. What I'll do today is take you through a short presentation, and we'll do some demonstrations, and I'll take you through some of the information that's available to CBs. However, the idea is that we get to a question and answer point of view, where I can field any of your questions if you have them, and we can start to work through different scenarios to help you with any areas that you might be struggling with. I'll just share my screen. There are a few new names on this webinar compared to the last webinar, so I will sort of start from the top. So again, this is the CB webinar for IAF CertSearch. The agenda is to talk about the goals of the webinar, to identify the key resources and walk through the brochure and those key resources, do a live demonstration of the certification uploads. So this time we'll do a few different scenarios and answer your questions. So the goals of the webinar, the main thing of these sessions is just to provide you confidence on the process and to help and to tell you how to upload the data. It's also to inform you about useful key resources that are available to you to help you along the way. And also that we have a support team there to help you. And of course, to answer any of your questions that you have throughout the webinar, and understand any of the challenges you may have with uploading. The key resources, I'm going to go through these in a practical demonstration. So I want to take you through the CB brochure, the mandatory document, the activation link process, and the essentially different help areas for the general information and the API. And then we'll talk about some common questions and the next webinar and things like that. So I'll come back to these slides. I'll just jump out now. So if we just start with some of the key resources here. Most of you should have received the brochure from your accreditation body. And it's just a high-level summary brochure. But what's important about this brochure is that it does articulate the key steps for a CB and also highlights the IAF mandatory document. So if you haven't found the IAF mandatory document, you can find it here in the summary. And there's a link to that, which will take you through to this mandatory document. So it's the IAF MD 28. And in here is essentially the governing document for the database. Introduction, definition, talks about the data requirements on what you need to upload and when, justification for exclusion and confidentiality and compliance and sanctions. So this may be relevant for you to read and go through as a starting point. If you lost your brochure, you can always go through on the IAF website and go to documents under mandatory documents here, and it's document number 28, which is right down the bottom of the mandatory documents. So yeah, I just thought I'd point that out because we've had a few questions on where to find the mandatory document. The next step is probably just explaining about the activation link. I'm not sure if all of you have activated your accounts, but you will receive a link, an activation link from your accreditation body. And if you haven't received it, you should contact your accreditation body. So this is just in the sandbox, so which is the test account. So it's just for dummy data and testing. But essentially, once you pop that link into your URL, that link is specific to your certification body. So only you should get the link. It's not a link that could be shared to other certification bodies. And that's because your accreditation body has already uploaded the certification, the standards that you can upload certifications to. So essentially the standards that you've been accredited to. And so they should have uploaded all of the management system standards. So that's the IAF standards, the IAF MLA standards, but also the national and sector schemes, because that's the requirement of the MD, is to upload all certifications that relate to management system standards that you've been accredited for. Once you click on the link, you'll have this sort of terms and conditions page. So you need to read through these and click submit, and then fill out your contact details for your account. So you'll know that it's for your certification body because it'll be pre-populated with your name. So that's where you would identify whether you've got the right link or not. But let's assume you get past that stage. Now we'll jump into the system itself. So you'll jump in and you'll log in and you'll see a dashboard and different areas down the side. Now, before I go into each area and start doing some different scenarios for uploading, I'd like to just talk about the user guide area. And so this is where you've just got some instructions and self-help information. I've already opened up a few of them up here. So basically, in the overview section for certification bodies, there is information around data management. So, for example, in certifications, how to add certificates for multiple standards, so integrated certificates, how to add additional sites, edit a certificate, edit additional slides, delete certificates, delete additional sites. So there's different things in there for each area, what the different fields mean with each of the tabs, and then also resolving errors. So error handling for field mapping issues, talks about the process of what to expect when going through uploading and data mapping. I'll take you through a few examples of that as well. And then also just the accounts, how to add users, how to set up your profile and settings and things like that. So look, whilst you can change that to some key languages there as necessary. This will convert this into different languages as you need. If you need another language that's not added to the core list, then please let the info at IAFCertSearch.org know, and we can do that. And you can obviously change different settings in here to how it's best for you to read that information. But also on the brochure and within the guide, there's also the videos. So there's some videos as well. So it's similar to what we're doing here at the webinar. you can watch a video on how to do things. So hopefully with that information, whether you're reading it or watching it, or if you're asking to have a test account set up, you can get familiar with the process. So let's think about the steps. We talked about the activation link. We haven't spoken about users, so I'll just jump into that now. So basically, if you're trying to add users, you would go into the user account section, and you can add users there. Then you need to check your accreditation details, so your standards. So if you're seeking to check your accreditation details, you need to go into the dashboard and go on to standards. And this is where you would see the standards that your accreditation body has uploaded. Now, whilst it might be slightly different to how you represent that information on the certificate, you need to make sure that all of your standards have been uploaded. And when I say standards, it's the standards that you are eligible to issue accredited certificates for. So it should include all of the IAF standards, so the international standards, but it should also include the national and sector scheme standards. And then it should include all your technical sectors, so the sectors that you're able to issue certifications to, and the country and economy. And then, of course, your different office directories. So that's essentially this section. The CB can't edit this section. So if it's incorrect and the standards are not there, then you should contact your accreditation body. Okay. So we've looked at the activation. You've activated your account. You've added the users that you need. You've checked your accreditation details, and so now you're ready to upload your data. So you need to choose how you want to upload, and get familiar with the process. So that's done in data management. So you can, if you jump into data management where it says import, this is where you'll find all your information. So you've got a data import section. You've got an FTP setting section. You've got an API section to create the API. And then you've got these two fields. One is global mapping. So within global mapping, you've got data mapping and field mapping. And then you've got import activities. This shows all the different uploads that you may have done, and you can view what occurred in each upload. And then import settings. So what I'll do now is we'll just start doing some examples. So you can see now that we don't have any certifications in this test account. It's just a test account, so I'll upload some dummy data and we can just see how that works. So for these purposes, I'm just going to focus on the file upload process. Essentially, it's the same process for FTP, whether you're using the Excel or Excel template. And it is the same process in a sense of uploading via the API, but that's just done in an automated fashion. But it's the same data going in, and you encounter the same challenges in terms of mapping. So what I might do is just show you a file before we upload one of these test files. And I'll just go through the different fields that you need to upload, and we can highlight the ones where there's typical questions. So first of all, I'd just like to talk about most of these fields are the fields that are on the certification itself. There's a few fields that are not on the certification, and they're used so that the database can operate effectively. So first of all, you've got this. I'd like to draw your attention to the two IDs that you're required to upload. So there's the certification identity number, that is the ID for the certification. And then there's the this one here, the certified entity unique ID. So they're two different IDs that you're required to upload. They can be alphanumeric, but basically the certified entity unique ID is an ID within the database that we know relates to the certified entity and the different certificates that belong to that certified entity. So if you are a certified entity and you have 3 certificates, so for ISO 9001, ISO 14001, and ISO 45001, let's just say, for example, when you upload that data, we need to know what company that belongs to. If we were just relying on company name, then the name might be spelt differently in a couple of different certificates and things like that. So then that would appear as 3 different certificates. Whereas we use the ID to know which certificates belong to that entity and what data fields, once you've uploaded them, belong to that certified entity. So it's really important to have the certified entity unique ID. So it's basically also could be called a client number that you might have and an internal database. But client ID, client number, certified entity ID, that's what that one is. The other ID is the certification identity number. Now, of course, you know about certificate number, and that's the number that appears on the certificate. But as we know that for some CVs, that certificate number can change. So it can change on renewal, it can change on change of scope, it could change when the status changes. So different CVs have different rules for the certificate number. But what we need to do is make sure that there's an ID that relates to that certificate that is not changing. And so every time you have a change to data within that certificate, so it could be the certificate changing, the scope changing, the status changing, the dates changing, for example, we need to know what certificate you're talking about. And so that's what we have, the certification identity number. Now, I will share that some CBs have used their certificate number as their certification identity number because their certificate number doesn't change. So, but if you're a CB where the certificate number can change, then we recommend that you have a different ID that can stay the same. If we talk about some of the other data fields, they're basically the certificates that appear on the certificate itself. So certificate number, certification status, which is key. Certification type is going to be management systems because that's all the database is. The scope of certification, the original issue date, the issue date, and the expiry date. The names. Now, there's a few options for names. Essentially, we have 3 or 4 fields for company name. And that's because you might have a company name, a registered business name, and that's the name that typically is uploaded. But you could also have a trading name or a multilingual name that you want to upload. Now, when the verifier, so the large corporate or the regulator, is trying to find that company in the database, if they put any one of those names into the database, they'll be directed to the company. I think I'll just also state that on the expiry dates, we understand that this is sensitive information. So when someone is doing a search, let's see if I can just do a search. So this is on the live database. So when someone's verifying a certificate, what they'll see, they won't see the dates on the website. They'll just see the status. So the dates are used to drive this status and to know about the certification, but they're not shown. And it also shows when the data was last updated. So I think, yeah, it's important to know that dates are shown. Now, for some industries, what I can share is that we have had requests from different industries. So for some industries, particularly the aerospace industry, they're claiming that they need to know when that certificate expires. So it doesn't mean it'll be shown on the website, but there could be some organizations that the IAF approves. For example, I know that Airbus and Boeing, for example, have asked to be able to know when the certificate is expiring. But on the website itself, to general users, you know, that information is not shown. Okay, so we've spoken about name and dates and the ID. The address is straightforward. What I'll say about the address is there are, you know, the street, city, state or province, postcode or zip code, country, economy. Now, you'll see that these fields are entered in a specific category, but some CVs might have this structured in a different way in their database. But when the certificate appears on the website itself, it doesn't, and the additional sites, it doesn't appear in these fields. So it just appears as one address. So just so you're aware of that. But in an ideal world, you can structure it in this way. And that helps just the verifier locate the information. We've got country, economy, website, and acronym, AV acronym, and name. But basically, when you've got the site's information as well. So you've got information on certificates. You'll have information about your certified entity, information about the sites that are certified, the additional sites and the main site, and then the standards and scheme. And so when you upload the data, the validation process that occurs is it's checking that you've uploaded certificates for the standards you're accredited for and within the scope that you're accredited. Okay, so I'll just delete that. I'll just jump back into here and we can start to do a few different scenarios for uploading. Okay, so let's just start with one of these test files. Should have some certificates in there. So you've selected the file, you can see it here. You can upload up to 10 files simultaneously, and those files, XML or Excel, can be up to 50 meg. Now, we recommend you use XML. It's more effective, it's faster, but if you need to use Excel, that is also fine. And then definitely for the FTP, again, we recommend XML, but Excel is also fine for the FTP. And then, of course, if over time you can progress to the API, it's the most effective way to upload, but we understand it takes more technical resource to set that up. So you'll see here, I've got this settings, and that was in your settings. You had the ability to go automatically import data and skip data with errors. And so basically what this means is that, let's say you're uploading 1,000 certificates and you have 10 with errors. You want the 9,990 without errors to go through and be imported. Whereas you don't want it to stop the upload at every error, because then you'd have to keep re-uploading the file. So that's one of the enhancements that we've done now, that you can upload and then address the errors that may be occurred independently or during the process. So I'll show you that. Okay, so basically it says that, look, we've got to upload your data, but then we have to take it through another step, which is verify and validate your data. And to validate your data before it goes actually into the live database, we need to check your field names, your data values, and the IDs. Okay, so now the upload is complete, and it's going through the process. It's going through the field mapping process. You can see here as it moves down on the left-hand process. So we're still in this validation process at the moment. And this can take, some time depending on the size of the file, or how many files you've uploaded or how many errors there might be. So it can typically take, 30 seconds for a small file or longer. So we can either stay on this page or view the import. Now, there could be a reason to stay on this page because we might want to stay on this page and resolve some errors if they did appear here. But in this case, everything went through. So we can continue through to the import page. And we can see that we've had one file uploaded. We had 30 certificates uploaded within that file. We had no files that were skipped and no records that were skipped. And that's it. So then we can go and view those certificates. Okay. So there they are. So they're the ones that we've just uploaded in that file. And then you can drill down on the certified entity data or the certificate data, either here or view in this way. And you can see the certified entities are there too, and drill down, see the certificates that belong to them. If you're adding a certificate manually, you have to add a certified entity first, and then you can add a certification to a certified entity. But what I'll do now, I'm just going to delete all these because we'll walk through a few more scenarios. So if you want to delete, you send an OTP. We recommend using an authenticator app, but if not, you can just use the email guard and get the ID that way. See that batch upload was successful. That it just keeps telling me all the different times that we've received about your upload. So if it was successful or partially successful, you'll be informed of that via email. And that's the same whether you're doing it manually or you're doing it in an automated fashion via the FTP or the API. Okay, so now I'll just do another import. I'll try a different different file. I'll get an error in this one, so I'll try this one. Upload. So it's going through this process again. The upload was complete. Now it's in the validation process. So you can see it moving through the different steps here. Still checking the field mappings and the fields. Okay, it's picked up an error here in data mapping. However, 15 records were imported. So if I stay on this page, because I want to resolve this error, I could have just forgotten about that error and gone through and just uploaded all of those records and not worry about the error. But in this case, I want to go into this error and see what it is. So it looks like the standard that I've uploaded doesn't match the standard that's been uploaded by my accreditation body. So if I jump in here and see, okay, the accreditation body has a hyphen between the standard code and the version. So I'll select that to say, yes, when you see this in my data, please change it to what the accreditation body has accredited me for. So that appears, so that you can map that. So it'll recognize these certificates and then map that. You only have to apply that once, and then that will work indefinitely. So then I'll click continue. Okay, so now we move from where we were at 15 records imported. We solved that error, and then now we've got 16. So it fixed it on the fly, and then we can see those certification data that there. Now, what we need to do, just from a testing purposes, I need to delete these certificates again to do another version. So I'll go back here, get this email, get this code, drop that in. I'll do that. But because we've now set up that mapping, I need to go into global mapping, and I'll see that I've actually set this up now. So you would see all of your field mapping, and we haven't done any field mapping yet, but we've done some data mapping. So just from a testing purposes, or if you've made a mistake, you can go in and edit these and delete these as well. So I'm just going to delete that so that it'll appear in this next upload. So I'll just do another scenario. So let's find another file, try this one. These are all test files, but I'll just keep trying different scenarios. Okay, so this one, it did the upload and it very quickly found a field mapping issue. So I can then resolve this straight away. So in this case, it's saying in your file, it says entity name, but that's not the field that's registered in IAF CertSearch. So we'd need to find, okay, well, what IAF CertSearch calls it is certified entity name. So that's what we'd need to match up. So remember when we looked at the file, there was a field called certified entity name, whereas in your field or in your database, you call it this. Now, the beauty of this is that you don't need to change the names in your database, the field names in your database, and all the actual data values. You can just set up the mapping and keep everything the same on your end. So if I apply that field mapping, that's done now. And so now it continues on this validation process. So you can see in progress now. So, okay, so the field mapping and the field checks have all been checked now. So then it moves down in the process. So, okay, so it's picked up something else now. So there's another data mapping. So I'm going to stay on this page. So there has been some data that's been imported. But so there's been 27 records imported, but 2 errors that have data mapping. So you might go, okay, well, that's good because you skipped the errors and wanted to import. So you can go back to these other ones that affect the 2 standards. So it's like what we did before. That's not how the AB has represented the standard. So you can solve those, apply that mapping. Click continue. And then they've all uploaded there. So you can view certificates. And so you'll see now that that certificate information appears like that now, how that standard is essentially correct. So the mapping essentially works. Okay, so how are we doing for time? I think we're okay. I'll do one more. Um, I'll just delete these again, so bear with me. So again, you can see all these reports that we've had as we've been doing these uploads. So particularly for the FTP and the API, it's important to understand that you're getting those reports about the activity and it informs you about, errors you may need to resolve or mappings that you need to resolve. Now, because we did some mapping in that process, I have to go in here. I'm going to delete these as well so they don't appear. I don't think they will. But just so I can start fresh, you don't need to do this because those mappings, they might be correct. But I'm just going to do another import. So I just want to delete everything. Okay, so in this case, what I want to do is just show you how you could upload multiple files at the same time. I'll pick these two. So this time you can see I've uploaded two different files of different size or similar size there. And so simultaneously you can upload them in one go. And it goes through that process for two different files at the same time. So the process can occur simultaneously, but sometimes if it's finding issues in one file, the other file might work through the process, whereas one might get stuck if some errors appear. But essentially, it just goes through this validation process, checking are the fields correct, are the data values correct, and then do we need to identify any errors that we need to bring to your attention down to the specific cell or field or value in the Excel. So in this case, I'll just go straight to the import. Everything was uploaded. There's 60 records from two files, and you can view the certificates there. So that's just another handy feature to be aware of. So that's a lot of the scenarios that are common. I think that what I want to highlight is that I've been doing all of this in the test account. So you can decide how you best want to upload the data. You can go straight to the live account and upload the data there. And you can still delete the data there. You can make edits there, so that's fine. Or if you want, you can go to the test account. If you want an account in the test account, you need to email info@iafcertsearch.org and ask to have a test account set up. Now, if you want, we can set that account up to have the same standards that you're accredited for so that you can test that. But one thing I need to highlight is that if you're using the test account, the information that is in here and all the work that you're doing here does not go into the live database. So it's just for test purposes and getting familiar with the process. So yeah, just be aware that any data mapping, field mapping, or data values that you set up in the test account won't be there into the live. You'd have to redo that work. The other thing is the live database, you can turn the view to non-searchable, or you could have the info@ifcertsearch.org write to that email address and ask the technical support team to do that whilst you're getting familiar with the process, if you'd rather do it that way. But either way, there's a couple of different options for you. I think I'll just go back here now, some common questions, and then open up the floor. Oh, we do have a question. Okay, so we've just got a question from Andrew. Is the data security in the test environment the same as the production? Yes, it is. It is the same data security, and it does have the same features. Um, for example, this is a test account. And so in settings and things like that, you've got your security settings, how you can set up your email guard or authenticator, and it's tracking your work that's being done there. So it does have the same, but we still recommend that you use somewhat test data. But yeah, it does have the same test account. Uh, it's not something that we offer a search engine to the public for. It's more just for upload testing. So therefore, it doesn't have essentially the homepage that we have like this necessarily. So there's different scenarios, but it's more just to help CVs with being able to test all of this. And for the back end part, the security is the same. Okay. So just some common questions that we've covered off, but I'll just touch on these. So how do I receive my activation link? So that's from your accreditation body if you haven't received that already. What certifications do I have to upload? It's all management system certifications. So you need to check the standards within your dashboard to make sure that they're all there. It should be all of the IAF standards, so all of the ISO and international standards, all of the national management system standards, and all of the sector. So any management system certifications. And that's what the verifiers, the large corporates, and the regulators are expecting to verify. So if they're not seeing it all in there, they'll assume most likely that client is not certified to that standard. So this are ABs uploading my certificate data. So the answer is there are some ABs with databases. So some ABs do have databases. So UCAS, Accredia, Jazans. And so they have integrated their database with the IAF CertSearch database. But for any multinational CBs who are on this call, it's important to know that the CB gets to choose how they want their information uploaded. So for example, if I'm a multinational CB who's accredited by multiple accreditation bodies, they could either choose to say, well, those that I've already uploaded that data to, so say UCAS and Accredia, I want that data to be imported from them. And for any additional data under other accreditations, I'll upload that directly. Alternatively, they can say in the system, they can identify that they don't want any data to come from the AB databases and they want to upload it all in one go because it's more efficient from that purpose and more effective via an API. So there's different scenarios there. But if you need a multinational certification body account, please contact the info@iafcertsearch.org email address. How often do I need to upload? In the mandatory document, the minimum requirement to upload is every 30 days. But if you're using an automated upload process, FTP or API, then clearly it's going to be more often than that. It is encouraged that where there's a status change, so suspension, withdrawal, or expiry, that is uploaded nearer to that date. And that's just because the verifiers, so the large corporates and the regulators, they're relying on this information. So what happens, what the corporates and the companies do with their database, and there's already over 30,000 companies and regulators using the database, and that user rate is growing at roughly 100% per annum. What they're identifying is they're using the database to identify the suppliers in their supply chain, or for regulators, the suppliers that they're monitoring of goods coming into their country or for public procurement. Now, when the CB changes the status of a certificate, so to suspended or withdrawn, or if it expires, then the companies who are trading with those certified businesses could be alerted of that. Okay, and so what we've seen is that a lot of companies might get certified once and then not recertify, and then they'll continue to claim that they are certified, but they won't be able to do that any longer if the verifier of that company, so the company they're trading with, is aware of IAF CertSearch, because now that company would be aware if their certificate has lapsed, and so what we're seeing is an increase in recertification where there's people using IAF CertSearch, so companies using IAF CertSearch. So it just enables them to know who really does have a valid certification and who doesn't. Whereas today, without IAF CertSearch, they could probably get away with having a certificate expire or be suspended or withdrawn, and the companies they trade with or their regulators would not be aware of that. So it just increases the value of accreditation and what we do, what the accredited certification bodies are actually doing. So it creates more meaningful impact on their certificates. As you know, there's these webinars, so please encourage more people from your organizations to jump on, particularly if you've got questions. They occur once a month. And just a key email address to be aware of is the info@iafcertsearch.org if you need any technical support or if you have any questions whatsoever. I know we've had a question from Andrew, but if anyone else has any questions, please send them on the chat or turn on your mic and video if you feel comfortable, and share your question. Okay, so Andrew just asked if we can share the recording with the group. So I'll definitely make sure we do that. Okay. Doesn't look like there's any more questions. I'll just open it up for another minute. If anyone thinks of a question that they'd like to ask. But I hope it was useful. This month I just tried to work through more scenarios. So, the field mappings, the data mappings, the multiple files. So, next month I can think of different scenarios that we can put in to help sort of cover off some of the things that you might face. But if during this next month you're uploading, whether in the live environment or the test environment, and you encounter something that I haven't covered off, feel free to actually email us and say that you'll be on the webinar or things like that, and we can incorporate that into the next session. But yeah, we're just here to go on this transitional journey with you until you've got all your data going in freely. But even once you've got the data in and you're conforming to the MD, we can work with you as you transition, also maybe to more automated processes as well. All right, thank you so much, everyone, for joining me today. I know it's probably your afternoon, your early evening, it's my early morning, but I hope you have a wonderful evening for those that it's afternoon and evening. And yeah, look forward to seeing you on the next webinar.